and I've been drawing my whole life. It's what I did as a kid. It's how I relaxed. It's how I distracted myself. It's how I had fun. Painting specifically, I started in college, so it's probably been a good 30 years or so that I've been painting. When I go to galleries and I look at other people's paintings, I actually love work that is looser, more painterly, uses thicker paint, but it's just not how I see the world. It's not how I envision compositions, and when I go to put paint on canvas, it's not what comes out. This is just how my hand works and how I see the world is with this level of detail. Most of my work is from photographs. Typically it's from a number of photographs that I composite to get all the various components that I'm looking for in a composition. This is actually a great example. This is three different pictures in order to get where I wanted the chair in the layout and to get the right look in the water, the right angle on the chair. So all of that is kind of put together. In other cases, it's just from one photograph. This one right next to it is just from one photograph that I took. In other cases, like these paintings over on the side here, those are plein air paintings, which is basically sitting in the field, painting from reality. Those I call the canoe paintings because I actually sat in my canoe, quite literally, anchored to a branch or tethered somewhere, and painted those paintings sitting on the floor of my canoe with my paint box strapped to the front seat of the canoe. It's a continual process for me. So I love to hike, love to canoe, love to kayak, love to camp. So I'm always in the field, if you will, or as much as I can. And I'm always taking pictures. So it's something I then sift through after the fact to see what images really grab me or what images correspond with what I want to say. And from there, I work with those images to figure out what's the best composition to get across either that message or the image that I want to create. And that's where the decision point comes in, whether I use just one picture or I composite multiple pictures to figure out what's going to look the best to communicate what I want to communicate. And from there, I typically go right to the canvas. Sometimes I'll do preliminary sketches. So this is actually a great example where I did several preliminary sketches because I was compositing multiple pictures. And then I go to the canvas. At that stage, I sketch it out. It's just a freehand at that point. As a tangent, I do mural work as well. And there's a comparison point here. With the mural work, I'll grid it out to make sure that I'm drawing it exactly in a large scale as I did in a small scale. When I do my fine art, I tend not to. I just freehand draw it on the canvas. I'll oftentimes put a base color down and then layer the paint on top of that. Don't have any real specific painters outside of Andrew Wyeth, and that dates back to being a kid, probably 11, 12 years old when I first became aware of Andrew Wyeth. I was riveted by his work, and I still am. I had the opportunity to go to the Olson House probably 5 years ago. And the Olson House is where Andrew Wyeth would spend time, and a great number of his paintings were inspired by views in and around that house. Christina's World, which is one of his most well-known paintings, was painted with the actual Olson House in the background. Outside of Andrew Wyeth, there aren't any real specific painters. More than anything, I just appreciate my contemporaries and going to local galleries and seeing what other people are doing. So this particular series is all about water, and it's thinking about water on multiple levels. So one is absolutely what you're saying, where I have a personal connection for it, a passion for being in the outdoors, but very specifically water. One of my all-time favorite things to do is to paddle, to be in and around water. But it's also inspired by our reality with water and how that reality is changing. I'm not a scientist or an expert, but certainly aware of the studies that have been done. As a matter of fact, just a couple days after I hung the show, there was an article in the New York Times saying that a quarter of humanity is facing a looming water crisis. And that's a big part of what I'm looking at here, whether it's a shortage of potable water or it's rising sea levels. Our relationship with water, while I focus so much on the peace, the serenity, the inspiration, that relationship with water is changing. Whether it's something that impacts us in this community, in this generation, maybe not, but certainly our kids' generation, their kids' generation, and other people around the world are experiencing it now. So I really like to think about the bigger picture of what water means to not just me, but what water means to all of us collectively. I've certainly tackled different topics. So the Olson house that I mentioned is actually a great example. There was a scene in the Olson house that was inspirational to me. So that was an interior of a room. I have done winter scenes. Snow is beautiful. So it's really more about what inspires me or what I'm inspired to do, which just so happens to be predominantly water in this show. Professionally, I do murals and decorative painting, and in the decorative painting work, I oftentimes have to match finishes. I have to match existing stone or existing wood. So to be able to see color, whether it's in nature or on a wall, is something that I've kind of honed over many years of doing it. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoy. And when I can, I like to try to start and end the painting as one continuous process, time willing. So there are times where certainly I have to set a painting aside and other responsibilities take precedent. But if I can, I like to just keep pushing through that painting until it's done. Because it's something that almost becomes, obsessive is maybe the wrong word, but that painting really wants to come out as soon as I start it. So I'm really driven to just keep working on it until that painting is complete.